sustainability and the climate crisis is such a big issue for the property industry, and we really felt from the beginning that we wanted to help galvanise the industry, educate, and just bring people together, because built environment is responsible for 40% of global carbon emissions, and it is just so important that the industry is seen to be working together to actually come up with solutions. So we were involved from the beginning, and then went into year two, and then last year, with the start of COVID and lockdowns, we were having these conversations saying, well, this is such a big issue. Is it going to push sustainability onto the back burner? And, we all know, having followed this for years, that it has on occasions been pushed onto the back burner. And what in fact happened was that a lot of people saw COVID and this global issue as a real wake-up call for sustainability and climate change. And it's, I think, helped galvanise people's thinking on it. Well, the government has got so many things to contend with. One's got for one thing, one of the topics that's come up a lot in the last couple of days is the levelling up agenda. So it's running alongside the concern to get to net zero. So we had COP26, and we're very enthused by some of the statements that came out of that, and you're then looking around saying, okay, who's going to lead on this? And it takes a little while for regulation to work its way through. You've mentioned the planning bill. Well, of course, what the government had proposed on planning is now being looked at again. So we'll see what comes through in planning. But yes, ideally we would have a planning framework that helps us on the path to net zero. What I think has happened, over the last few years is that the larger property companies and the REITs have really led on this, and a number of them have gone beyond the Paris Agreement, and they are looking to achieve net zero in 2030. That is only 8 years away. And we all talk about net zero, but actually it's 8 years, and that's a relatively short period. But a number of the the larger property companies and funds have done that, and others are following suit. They're going to be others that trail behind, but I think they're all going to find that if they don't get on board with this, they're not going to get funding. So they are going to be sort of pushed down the right path. But and yes, we can't just sit and wait for the government to legislate. We have the property industry is responsible for a large percentage of emissions, so we've got to lead on it. But I would also say that it's easy enough to get to net zero on new buildings, and we have in this country got a very large percentage of building stock, a lot of housing, which is old and it's going to have to be retrofitted. That is more difficult because you can't do it on your own. You own the property is occupied, you've got to bring the occupiers on board with you. So we're going to need education on this, and we've got to get everybody on board. It's not enough that it's just the property industry. People have got need to get on board with it. It's got to be achievable because there have been a number of climate catastrophes around the world, and I think even the people that thought that perhaps this was a bit overblown are realising that for the survival of the planet we've got to get on board with it. The trouble is we are now going into this inflationary period. There's going to be an awful lot of pressure on people to just be able to afford to live their lives. This is another layer of cost on top of it, and people are not quite sure what to do. So you live in a house that's drafty and leaky. You've got your energy bills are going to be going up substantially now. Who's going to pay for the cost of retrofitting that house? people are being told that they can't have gas boilers, and yet there isn't yet a suitable form of alternative. So I think there's a big education piece in this, and I think that is something that the government is going to need to get behind, because you can't just rely on big corporates to do the right thing. Yes, they can lead the way, but they're going to need to bring everybody with them. I mean, we all live in properties. We all know that they, if they're older properties, they are not fit for purpose. If you roll back, 3-4 years, this wasn't an issue that the property industry was taking seriously, and it now is absolutely top of the agenda, and you can see progress everywhere, and even local authorities now, they will think about giving a planning consent if a building has got to be demolished, if they do, if they don't think what is actually planned warrants the carbon emissions, embodied carbon that is going to come out of it. And it is now, top priority for all of us. And no, we have to keep going, get everybody on board, and make sure that the property industry is leading the way.